we're gonna be doing some React.
TV.
We're gonna
Oh
be,
shit!
yeah, pretty much. We're gonna be doing some React Andy content. We're gonna watch this Pokemon speedrun. It's something that I'm looking at speedrun at some point myself. So that's why I'm interested. Like I've thought about running red and yellow before, but this is Pokemon Gold, which is like my favorite Gen 2. So let's make it a bit more theater mode. Do this. Perfect. All right, cool. So, yeah, we're going to watch how speedrunners beat Pokemon Gold in under 8 minutes. Speedrun explained.
In 1999, Nintendo would release the sequel games to the best-selling RPG of all
Let me know on the audio if you can hear it or not. If there's if there's any discrepancies, I'll try and turn it up, but it's already on full.
time. Pokemon
Yep, the whole game in 8 minutes, but the explanation is 16. So it's going to take longer for them to explain how to do the run than the run actually takes by double the time.
Playgrounds and cafeterias around the world were swept up in Pokemon Mania.
Thank you.
While famous glitches like Missing No and item duplication wouldn't appear in this generation, the door was open for other iconic bugs to make an entrance. In the mid-2010s, a glitch was discovered with the coin case that effectively allowed players to edit the game's code due to an oversight with the text box it triggers. This made the first sub-hour runs possible, and as the years went on, players found that they didn't need the coin case. In fact, all they needed were a couple of items and the save game feature. Today we'll be looking at the current any percent route, breaking down how
Yeah, so any percent is like super glitched,
in under 8
like
minutes.
just absolutely breaking the game. I may or may not learn the any percent run. I'd probably learn one of the classic runs. Excuse me, because I would want to kind of run it classic, so we get like the whole run and not just like skip to the end or like this is heavily glitched with a lot of warps and corruption and things, as you're going to see.
In a normal playthrough of Pokemon Gold, players are required to collect all
It's
8
fine on
badges
PC,
from
told you.
Johto, defeat the Elite Four, and then travel to Kanto to collect 7 more badges and fight Red on Mount Silver. All of this takes a lot of time to do, and in a glitchless speedrun, the fastest times clock in at just over 3 hours. But in an any percent run, players have some very intriguing tools at their disposal that allow them to beat the game in a fraction of the time. Instead of going out of bounds and walking to the end of the game like happens in BDSP, a wrong warp is performed just north of Cherry Grove City after meeting Professor Oak and Mr. Pokemon. There are 3 ingredients that go into making this wrong warp possible: using box manipulation to create code that will wrong warp the player, using save corruption and collision to enable key item underflow, and then using underflow to trigger the wrong warp that was written earlier. Each of these steps have a lot going on under the hood that allows for the game to be broken in such a short amount of time. So let's break down each ingredient and its requirements as they appear in the speedrun to get a full understanding of what's going on.
What you can do, if you really want, is you can open that link and then you can bookmark it. Then you always have access to it. I kind of had to do that myself so I can get into it, because otherwise I don't have access to it any other place than when I put the link in the chat.
The setup begins before the speedrun even starts, as players need to manipulate a specific trainer ID in order for the wrong warp to work.
Okay, we need a trainer
Why
ID.
the trainer ID is required to our list of explain this later. For now, let's see how they manipulate it. To manipulate the ID to this number, players do a hard reset and then perform a series of inputs on the menu. The reason the hard reset is required is because the system they're trying to influence is a hardware timer that runs multiple cycles per frame. The hard reset will bring this timer to a consistent state every time. Then, by using a series of precise inputs that are aided by an external timer, they can start the game with the desired trainer ID, which brings us to the beginning of the speedrun. Like every Pokemon game, there's an intro cutscene to go through before we gain control of the player. And once we do, we'll visit Professor Elm and select Totodile for our starter because of how overpowered it is for the speedrun.
Okay.
Players then proceed
Totodile
through Route 29 where encounters aren't manipulated. Doing a setup to receive no encounters would take more time than it would be worth. So they YOLO walk through the grass on their way to Cherry Grove City, where they will perform the second manipulation of the run. If you grew up with Gen 1 or 2, you may be aware that the box storage system had a glitch that allowed you to duplicate Pokemon. This is
I used to use this maliciously when I was a kid, but the way you had to do it, if I remember rightly, is like turning the game off mid-save when it's going dling, and just jack it off straight there. You have to jack it off. You just like jack off the power right there, and it used to be able to do it so that, if I remember rightly, when I was a kid anyway, you would still have the Pokemon in your inventory and there'd be one in the box, and it was ideal for when you finally got hold of like a Charmander or something like that, or in my case, and if you wanted to do this instead of breeding, you could also breed. Like I used to breed Typhlosions and Quilavas and stuff, but yeah, like you could use this too. But this was dangerous for your save file.
But speedrunners do something that alters the very fabric of the game itself.
If you what to the power, Phil Taylor's buzzing. I have to
the
jack off the
ability
power,
to be
dude.
renamed, which
God,
lets
just
players
jack him off.
customize and
You know?
organize them however they want. But it also gives speedrunners the ability to create wrong warps in the game's code. The name of every box corresponds to a section of the game's memory called WRAM, which is the main section of memory that the game uses to run. There is also a copy of WRAM called the mirror or echo RAM, which serves a technical purpose that we don't need to get into. All you need to know
Damn, that weather
is
sounds
that
horrible
while
out there.
things
It's
in the
windy
echo
and
RAM
raining.
are copies of WRAM, they have different addresses in memory. All that this means is that a physical location in the RAM can be
Remember doing
accessed
something similar,
using
yeah.
an address from the WRAM or the echo RAM. Nintendo left developers instructions not to use the Echo for development purposes, but we're speedrunners that don't care what Nintendo wants us to do. So we're going to use the box system to create custom code that contains a wrong warp payload in the Echo RAM. By naming boxes using specific characters, you can manipulate what's being stored at this address in memory so that when it's executed, it will perform a wrong warp. The reason we need to use the Echo RAM is one of necessity, as the address connected to the mirror is the only way we can start executing it, as we will come to see later.
Okay,
Figuring out how to
that's
use such-
really manipulating like everything, like manipulating the hardware and the RAM to generate execute these codes. That's fucking some crazy shit. This is why I wanted to, not only did I want to watch this so I understand, but when you watch one of these runs, they just do a few things and the game's over, and it's like, wait, what? I'm so glad we have this like explanation, because otherwise it just is like a kind of Jackie Chan meme moment where it's like mind blown. I have no idea what they just did. At least now we can. It's complicated for sure, but we're at least getting some answers about
requires a huge
how this
amount of
works.
knowledge. So the glitch hunting team deserve a tip of the hat.
Yeah, look.
But
So you have
speedrun isn't done with knowledge. So the glitch hunting team deserve a
all these things, these like readings that they're looking for, correlate to the name that they named the boxes or whatever. Which that is, yeah, this is
tip of
some
the hat.
deep shit.
But the speedrun isn't done once you've renamed all of the boxes. All that's been accomplished so far is writing a bit of custom code that will perform a wrong warp. You
Yeah,
still need a way
that's
to
crazy.
execute it.
As someone that
After
doesn't
you've
do
set
glitched
the
runs, this is
ID
crazy
and
to me.
created the wrong warp code using the box manipulation glitch, you'll want to make your way north of Cherry Grove City to start setting up the key item underflow. And to do this, runners use a glitch that Nintendo specifically warned you not to try. It's time to find out what happens when you turn off the power while saving.
This is what me and Simon were talking about.
Save collision and corruption.
This is going to be a different glitch, but the process
While
is the
it
same.
would be epic to have a montage of save files being rammed together and corrupting, the reality is that visually, it's much more boring than what's going on under the hood. So let's skip the montage and get right into it. Before you head to Route 30, you'll want to go to the mart and buy 11 antidotes, then head to this particular tile and drop a potion, then save the game. It's not accidental that we need exactly 11 antidotes or to drop a potion, as these actions are done to manipulate something known as the checksum. The checksum is a value that gets assigned to save files that consists of all the bytes of the save added together, so things like the number of items, trainer ID, and active Pokemon are all taken into account when a checksum is calculated.
Have to learn fluent
When a save
binary to
file
play
is
Pokemon now,
created,
huh?
the
Basically.
checksum of that file is stored
This is
in
why I would run
the next
personally. Like, I find this interesting, but all the numbers and codes and everything, it's a little off-putting, from a beginner. I don't know how to run this game, and even though this is an 8-minute run, and it probably, if someone just directly showed you on Discord and went, look, you just got to do this, name this to this, go up here, drop this, save your game, load your game, do this. If someone broke it down with me, I feel like I'd learn it in an hour. But like, and just showed me and let me do a couple of run attempts and whatever, and just, you know what I mean, like tutorialed me a little. But in this way, it is being explained to me, but I can't. I have to learn by doing. You know, like I can't still. I can watch this and go, huh, wow, that's interesting. But I don't think I'd be able to even start getting into this just yet. And if I did, I mean, we're just watching this for fun. But if I did start running any Pokemon games, I'd probably try and learn the classic routes where you just, you know, you take every gym leader and you just try and do it fast, kind of thing. Like, especially for a beginner, because you have to work up to this. I feel you have to understand the game as much as these guys do to be on this level, whereas I obviously don't.
Stored in memory. In Gen 1, only one copy of the checksum was created, meaning that if something went wrong when saving and the data became corrupt, you would be forced to start a new game. In Generation 2, things work a bit differently. When you save the game, a primary save file is created, with the game taking note of its checksum value. But it also makes a backup file.
Speedrunners not giving a fuck about game boundaries? Nah, I never knew that. Yeah, I know, right?
Primary save file.
I predominantly run lots of no major glitches.
Losing all of their progress. The backup save file is stored in 3 steps, with the checksum storing some basic save data first, then proceeding through the rest of the backup save before calculating its value and storing it in memory. This system is precisely what Speedrunners set out to break, and the pristine save we just made after dropping that potion is about to become more corrupted than Dragon Quest III being played on a hot plate.
See, the cool thing about this is, like me and Simon said, we did this as a kid, but we kind of didn't know the ins and outs of it. So to see that, like, broken down this way and show you how this works, like how it loads and checks for code, like, that's kind of interesting, because I never had any idea that, you know, this is how it works, and to see it explained so, like, eloquently and well designed, this is kind of a great video.
This system is precisely what Speedrunners set out to break, and the pristine save we just made after dropping that potion is about to become more corrupted than Dragon Quest III being played on a hot plate. Once we have our immaculate save file, we'll pick up a hidden potion for more checksum manip, then head to Mr. Pokemon's house and proceed through 2 cutscenes where we get the mystery egg and the Pokédex. We'll then open the menu and take away Totodile's berry because we don't want him to be too overpowered, then initiate a save. Next, we will do what every kid in the 90s had an existential fear of, quitting out before the game was finished saving.
Yeah, here we go.
If we go back to the order of operations for saving the game, what we're trying to do is interrupt the game at a specific point in its routine for when it's creating the backup save. This corrupts the backup save, and you are probably wondering why this is relevant since the checksum validation will catch the corrupt file. But fortunately for speedrunners, the checksum system isn't overly complicated. In fact, it's incredibly simplistic. As mentioned above, the checksum takes all of the data contained that needs to be saved and then assigns it a value based on the sum. In theory, the unique properties of any particular playthrough should always generate a different checksum value, but due to how simple the calculation is, speedrunners found a way to have wildly different datasets produced.
That screwed me up too, because when I went to go and close that page, and it would say, like, you're trying to leave this page, are you sure, blah, 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 and I'm like, wait, yeah, actually, am I? Yeah.
Same checksum.
It threw me off too.
This oversight allows them to create a corrupted backup save that will pass the checksum inspection by quitting during a specific time. The window to do this is more precise than a frame because the save function runs on a hardware cycle, so to help time the quit out, they use a timer to align their actions with the cycle they need to quit on. All of this save and quitting work is just to corrupt the backup save, but
wow, we used to just YOLO that when we were kids. We would just, like, you would just have, like, a feel for it, but we definitely weren't that accurate, that's for certain.
When you load a file, the game looks at the primary save first, and ours is still intact. So how do runners get the game to load the disguised corrupted backup save?
I like that picture.
After doing this save and quit in Mr. Pokemon's house, when runners get to the main menu, they will press New Game. If they press Continue, the corrupted backup save would be overwritten with the data from the primary file. So by pressing New Game, we keep things very evil and corrupted. On this new file, you need to set the clock to 10 a.m. and name the player Gold in all caps. This changes some data under the hood, so that when we complete the next steps,
I did wonder why.
Save will become corrupt.
I did wonder why they do, when I've seen these before, they actually do pick specific names, like gold or whatnot, and I wondered if there was any data, like, you know, some data changing under the hood, like he said, that would be the reason for that, and I was
Intro is
correct.
done. It's time
I did
to
wonder.
perform another
I
save
wondered if it was
at a different
a necessity for the trick, or if they just, it didn't matter, so they just, whatever, just call themselves gold. But it is actually essential, so it's good to know that.
that will corrupt the primary save so that when the game tries to load it, the checksum will fail, making it load the corrupted but passable backup save we created earlier. When you arrive back to the main menu, you'll want to hit continue instead of new game. And this is where runners learn whether they won or lost playing the save and quit roulette. Since you're resetting during a cycle, the inputs aren't exact even with the help of a timer, and there are a few possible outcomes that can result. If you get the "this save file is corrupted" message, this means that you reset during the backup save segment in Mr. Pokemon's house, but were outside of the required window, meaning that the backup save never got the manipulated checksum, so the game rightfully reads it as corrupt. And since the main save is corrupted by what we just did, it has nothing to load, hence the error message. If you
The
do
evil
load the backup
face and a
save,
mustache, yeah, exactly, I like that too.
as there are 3
Evil
different
Gengar
outcomes.
file.
The game loads you inside of Mr. Pokemon's house, meaning that the quit out for the backup save was very late. If it was too early, you load outside of the house on Route 30, but you don't have the Pokédex, with the desired outcome being that you load on Route 30 with the Pokédex in your inventory. If you break down the rough odds of these different outcomes, the scenario where you have the Pokédex and are on Route 30 occurs in about 13% of attempts.
Yikes.
Which means even if you do the setup properly, you'll still be resetting almost 90% of the time. For those runs that receive the blessing of RNGesus and have successfully corrupted and collided save files, there's still work to be done, in what is perhaps the most visually confusing glitch that Generation 2 offers: item underflow. We've corrupted our save data and are almost ready to begin item underflow, but you're probably wondering why it's significant that we need to corrupt a save file that was outside of Mr. Pokemon's house with the Pokédex. The original save we made was done before we went through the cutscene to obtain the Pokédex and Mystery Egg, and the corrupted backup save is at the exact same spot progression-wise, except we have both the Pokédex and Mystery Egg in our inventory. The key here is that the game doesn't think we should have a Mystery Egg in our
That one's
inventory
already
at this
a
point,
command.
since it was never added in the first place, and when we go through the cutscene, we're given another Mystery Egg. This may seem insignificant, but all of the save corruption comes to fruition when you swap the positions of the 2 Mystery Eggs in the key items inventory. When you swap 2 of the same regular items in the inventory menu, the game adds them together and creates one stack. But key items are unique, and that you should only ever have one of any given key item. When you swap the 2 Mystery Eggs, the game tries to merge the quantities, but since you should never have more than one, the game doesn't know what to do and ends up breaking the size of the items list in the ball's pocket as it tries to figure out what just happened. When you go to the items pocket, the game now thinks there are 255 items inside of it, except none of the items are actually real. However, each of these bogus items corresponds to different spots in the game's memory. This allows runners to edit areas of memory by moving glitched items around in their inventory.
That's
In
what
this
they do.
instance, they're going to make the game do one specific thing: execute the wrong warp payload they set up with box manipulation, which means it's a great time to explain the 2 things we put on our explain later list. I mentioned that we picked Totodile because of how overpowered it was, but that's actually not the case. Totodile is picked because of what it doesn't offer. It would be quicker to pick Cyndaquil since that's the closest Pokeball to the player.
Yeah.
But Cyndaquil has Tackle as its primary move.
Cyndaquil was my
On
main.
the technical side of the wrong warp, the game starts reading through data that corresponds to the Pokemon in our party before it arrives at the code we made with the boxes. And if Tackle is in our move list, the game won't arrive at the section of memory we need it to due to how it reads Tackle's data. Scratch doesn't have this problem, and lets the game proceed reading through data to the next move, which is Leer. And when it finishes Leer, it arrives at the trainer ID, which is perhaps the most important number in this entire trick. When players told the game to execute the wrong warp, it doesn't start reading the code setup with the box manipulation. Due to limitations of what they could do with the broken item menu, it started reading data in the Pokédex before it went to Totodile. This means that they still had to get the game to start executing the payload, and this is where the trainer ID comes in. When the game reads the trainer ID with the value we manipulated earlier, it interprets the value as a jump instruction, which is a command that tells it to stop executing memory where it currently is and to start executing at another location. And the trainer ID tells it to go to the wrong warp payload we set up.
Yeah, I'm still
with
live.
Box names.
I feel like his internet might be shitting out again. Yes, bugging out. Yeah, I'm definitely still here. Let me just check. I'll just, to be certain, have we dropped any frames? No, I've dropped 0% frames. Yeah, you got to get on your computer. See, yeah, exactly.
This teleports us to Mount Silver so we can fight Red with our overpowered level 5 Totodile. Uh-oh. Going to a final boss with a Pokemon that's level 5 is generally a bad idea, and you were likely suspecting runners to edit Totodile stats to
Yeah,
make
not
it
me, I'm afraid.
overpowered. But that would take time,
Feels bad, man.
so instead, we
Yeah, get on the
skip the
PC.
battle completely by including an
Chat room,
instruction
somebody
to
buy
an
Simon a
envelope
PC.
to tell the game we have a party size of 0 Pokemon. After wrong warping to Red, the game tries to initiate a battle, but fails due to it thinking we have no Pokemon in our...
To be fair, I have 2 spare PC towers down there that have been there for years. If I could restore one of them, I might be able to just give you a PC.
party. The developers built in a failsafe in case this situation ever
You're
came
gonna quote
up,
me?
and
Nice.
it causes the
Good.
battle to be won
Fundraiser for Simon, yep.
This makes it proceed to the next step after the battle, and Red's cutscene is loaded where he disappears from Mount Silver, which triggers the credits to play, completing Pokemon Gold in under 8 minutes without battling a
Damn,
single
I'm gonna go.
Pokemon.
Hang on, I just want to see that last part
Built in
again.
a fails due to... After wrong warping to Red, the game tries to initiate a battle, but fails due to it thinking we have no Pokemon in our party. The developers built in a failsafe in case this situation ever came up, and it causes the battle to be won instantly.
Wow.
This makes it proceed to the next step after the battle, and Red's cutscene is loaded where he disappears from Mount Silver, which triggers the credits to play, completing Pokemon Gold in under 8 minutes without battling a single Pokemon.
Damn.
The
That is
current world record
pretty
sits
crazy.
at 7:59 by Washer. It was the first sub-8 minute time ever set on Gen 2 by a human, and is a testament to the efforts of runners and glitch hunters when it comes to breaking games that are over 20 years old. A lot of times, glitch hunters go unappreciated, so if you could leave a comment down below thanking them for what they've done, that would be awesome. It wasn't always like the run you see today. It started in 2014 when Sanqui created a route using the coin case to take advantage of a similar effect as to what happened here. That run was just over an hour long and served as a stepping stone for the route we just explored. The history of Pokemon Gold Any% is a story for another time. For now, let's just appreciate that speedrunners will do anything to beat the game faster, including subscribing to my Patreon to get sneak peeks at upcoming content and behind-the-scenes looks at projects in production. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.
I look forward to watching that one if he uploads it. But yeah, this is, if you couldn't see, this was Abysssoft on YouTube. So go and check him out, obviously, just to make sure I, shout out people that we watch videos for. This was a cool video. I like how it was explained, because even a moron like myself could actually start to grasp some of that. I'd probably have to watch it again to fully understand it. But yeah, that was a cool video. So there you go, chat room. That was how speedrunners beat Pokemon Gold in under 8 minutes. Speedrun explained. Let's go to here, then we can go back to me.